Hi everyone and welcome to this video. In this video I want to show you my process when working on my Inktober drawings. I've been having so much fun with this year's challenge so far, trying lots of different ideas. And the word prompts have actually been awesome. On the 10th day the word prompt was gigantic, and this gave me so many ideas that I wanted to try. And on days like this where there's multiple ideas, I've actually started by roughly sketching a few of them in little thumbnails. And these thumbnails help so much when you're thinking about the composition and the layout, and it always helps me to actually decide which one I want to work on. As you can see, the three ideas that I roughly sketched, there's a giant pumpkin in a field with a bunch of regular pumpkins, also a giant walking through a valley with a little character standing in the corner. Then lastly, I was thinking maybe a giant tree sheltering a city. And in the end, I decided to work on the massive tree because the idea seemed the most interesting to me. So then I started sketching the full drawing, developing much more detail than I added to the thumbnail, with knots and branches on the tree, and just kind of developing much more shape. Then I made sure to add a large layer of leaves at the top. For the city, I tried to kind of give each of the buildings much more individual characteristics, changing their shape and size and adding little details. Then I added a large forest surrounding the entire scene. Once I'd completed the sketch and I was happy with the layout, it was then time for the inking. And I like to make sure that I add all the inking at this stage before adding anything else, using varying Pigma Micron pens, and I really try not to worry too much about the quality of the line work. I try to approach this in a much more relaxed way, and I'm going to be placing more layers over the top of it anyway. I try to also vary the line thickness, depending on where my light source is going to be. And I knew that in this scene I wanted to place the moon on the left, so I would place the shadows on the right side with thicker outlines. For areas like the underside of the tree, this is where I like to use either a Pigma Micron brush pen or a larger Pentel brush pen to add any larger areas of ink. It makes the process so much easier, and I really like the effect it gives. It adds a lot more of 3D depth, especially kind of contrasting the darkness of that underside of the tree with the branches that are overlapping it. When I'd eventually added all the inking to the tree and the city and the surrounding forest, this is where I like to start using Copic Markers for the shading. For all of my Inktober drawings, I mainly just use Cool Grey 1, 3, 5 and 7, but for this year I've also loved adding hints of colour to some of the drawings. So as you can see for this one, I chose to add bright crimson to the tree. As I progress through each of these drawings, I also like to add bright highlights with the Uni-Ball white ink pen and a white Prismacolor pencil. I always love adding highlights, especially on this toned tan paper, and in this case I really believe it helped to develop the shape of the tree. I then added cool grey shading to the city, then layered some bright highlights on top of it that also represented the windows on each building. I just tried to make use of the highlights to add individual details to each building and just trying to make them look different from one another. Then for the forest in the background, this is where I actually added the highlights first, and then added dark shading over the top of it, and I tried to create a smooth gradient upwards into the sky. Then for the forest in the foreground, this is where I actually followed the same routine, with the highlights first, followed by the shading. But then I also added layers of shading to each individual tree, just trying to create the effect of shadows under each layer. I've never tried to create that effect with these trees before, and hopefully it worked out. To add some final details to this drawing, I also placed a moon and some stars in the sky, and then I added some crimson falling leaves along with some clouds with the cool grey markers. Then after that, the drawing was completed. It's super fun to attempt different ideas like this, and that's why I love working on Inktober. I also want to show you another time-lapse featuring the Inktober drawing I worked on for the 15th day, where the word prompt was mysterious. And I wanted to try and create a mysterious looking doorway, and my idea was to try and add lots of shading to create a kind of a looming darkness, and I guess my idea for this one was to try and attempt something a bit more spooky. And as you'll be able to see, I follow the same routine for each drawing, developing the sketch at first, then moving on to the inking, before finally adding the shading and the highlights. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. Inktober is such an awesome challenge and I'm having a great time. Please let me know what you think, and also let me know if you have any suggestions for future videos. If you want to see more stuff like this, then feel free to subscribe, and any likes or shares on this video, they really mean a lot to me. If you want to follow my progress and see progress photos before I post these videos, then check out the links in the description box below to check out my Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I'll see you all soon.